excited for it. So before we get started, quick logistical things. This is recorded. We'll post it on YouTube afterwards. There is a chat box. If you look to the right underneath the chat, there's a little Q&A box. And so if you have questions, please put them in there. And basically the way that it will work is at the end when we're doing question answering, we'll go to that Q&A box and we'll look at the ones that are most upvoted. So in addition to just adding questions, you can also upvote ones. So that's kind of how we'll pick the top ones to answer. That's pretty much it in terms of logistics. This will go just about an hour. Today we're doing a deep dive on Quivr, so I'm excited to be joined by Stan, who's the mastermind behind Quivr. Quivr is I'll let Stan explain what Quivr is, but basically the format of this is we'll do a 30 minutes kind of just like walkthrough of Quivr, everything related to how it got started, where it is now, future roadmap, how to think about it as product versus technology, all of those things. I'm just going to pepper him with questions. This is going to be great. He'll hopefully give me some good feedback on LangChain. I'll hopefully give him some good feedback on Quivr, and we'll just kind of have a fun conversation. And then we'll work in questions from the audience. So add the questions to the question and answer tab, and we'll just power through those. That's basically it as an intro. Stan, do you wanna take it away?
Yeah. So hi guys. I'm Stan from France. If you can't hear it. Thanks, Harrison, for the introduction. Well, I think we can start. Let me share my screen. Yep. Okay. So let's start at the beginning. So Quivr. For those of you that want to follow the explanation, you can go to GitHub, Stan Gerard, and find Quivr. And for those of you that don't want to go here, you can just go to the website. What is Quivr? So the idea behind Quivr at the start was just a place to dump, all of the files that you and the knowledge that you encounter every day, and be able, in a week or in 2 weeks, a month or a year to ask questions about it. Because I've been using Obsidian for maybe 2 years, and I've been using Notion also a lot. And one of the things that I really like is the ability to quickly dump information into these tools. So on Notion, you have things that you can install in Chrome, so that you click a button and it dumps all the web page in Notion. Obsidian, same. So it's when you have a busy day and you don't want to forget information, you just dump it, and it's something that I like to call a fleeting note. So I used to do, fleeting notes, just dump them into Obsidian, and then later on in the week come back to it and work them and create some value out of them. And so that was kind of the idea at the beginning, is to be able to dump anything into Quivr and then just ask questions. So yeah, so that's the story behind Quivr. If you want, you can
When did you start this? Just to set the timeline, like, was this how recent was this?
It's 3.5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
okay.
the first commit is 3 weeks, I think, ago, or something like that. It was on Friday evening, 3.5 weeks ago. Yeah. The thing is, let me share my screen here. I'm looking at the first commit. So yeah, May 12th.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, but I've meddled with things like that. I created a small tool. Let me find the name. It's Speech Digest. If you can see my screen, it's a small tool that I created on Streamlit. But I have a GitHub for that, which is Stan Gerard Speech Digest, which is a tool onto which you can dump audio files and it translate them to document and summarize them. So I've been meddling with ChatGPT, not ChatGPT, but GPT, Whisper, and all of these things. And so Quivr at the beginning was just a merge between Speed Digest. I've also created something for fun, but which is called Article Genius. Sorry, guys, wrong. Sorry. Yeah, so this one. So Article Genius. No, I'm not. Am I showing Article Genius? Can you see?
Yeah.
So yeah, just a few things I've been mating with, and then one evening on Friday I decided to create that. So Quivr, and yeah. So that was the story.
And when you started Quivr, like, did you think it would be bigger than the other ones that you started? Because I looked and this has, like, 7,000 stars already, and the speech one, not nearly as many as that. So did you know that it would like, were you investing in it as like this is going to be like a big thing, or was it similar to the other ones, just kind of like a smaller project and it just took off or whatever?
It's the thing that happened that was crazy is that I made a tweet about it, and one guy from LangChain retweeted my tweet, and that went crazy from here. So I was just, let me show you Quivr. It was just a screenshot, and yeah, it just blew up. And at that time, I didn't know what happened, so it was pretty fun. Friday evening, I went to bed at 3 a.m. With my phone just vibrating. And when I woke up, I had like 400 stars, and the next day I was trending on GitHub. So yeah,
Nice.
it was very fun, and I think it's you that retweeted my tweet, and that made Quivr, the thing that it is today. So yeah, thank you.
But we retweet a lot of stuff, and not everything kind of like takes off. There's definitely something about Quivr that struck a chord with people and made them excited to try it out and take a look.
Yeah, I think it was the second brain kind of branding of the tool with when people because in the tech world a lot of people know Obsidian, and so when you say it's the second brain, a lot of people already know the concept thanks to Obsidian. And so that, I think, struck the chord. I think,
Nice.
I think that's why it became what it is. And the idea behind it, to believe some of the things that you have in your head and don't think about it and just look at it later on. And maybe the fact that it's open source too.
Yeah.
That helps. So yeah. Maybe you want a quick demo about, I think, if you want, you just go to the website, but you can just get started here. You just create an account, and I already have one. So let me show you. I have many. But you can just drop one file. Let me find, this one, maybe. Hope it's working. There's always, it's working. We always have the demo effect. So I've just uploaded a presentation I did on generative AI today at work, but it's maybe somewhere in the brain. I don't know why it is. Let me find it. Yeah, it's here. So we can see the content. So it's it was just a presentation about generative AI, and so now we can just ask questions about it. Let me refresh here. I don't know what is who is Harrison Chase. Let's see. Is there information in my brain? No. So yeah, we have some issues right now, but so what it did here is it looked into, let me show you. So it tried to find, I might have written your name wrong, but yeah, it's looking for that right here, and it finds the information that is the most relevant. And you can ask it many questions, but for example, I've put some things about KEDA, for example, which is a tool. And it's being able to find all the information about Keda and put an answer with that. So how it works, maybe that you're interested in.
Let's dive into that.
Yeah, so that's fairly simple right now, but it's a document. So at first we have a document. So here we take a PDF, Markdown, a PowerPoint, or something like that, and we use a LangChain document loaders. So let me find that on the LangChain website. So here on LangChain, you have a lot of things, and I think it's right here. So right here, I'm using so for example the Markdown loaders. I'm taking the unstructured Markdown, and I'm just loading the file, and and so thanks to your loader, if we go into
thanks for Unstructured for that. Yeah, so this is big shout out to Unstructured, which is a great company doing a lot around document loaders, and we have a very tight integration with them. But yeah, they do a lot of the smart stuff here.
Yeah, there's another one that I can show that uses I think PDF. You also have a PDF loader with unstructured.
So how many different file types do you support for upload?
So currently, currently we have audio files. So it's all the audio files that are supported by Whisper. So it's MP4, MP3, video files. We have CSV, docs, docx, EPUBs, GitHub repositories also, HTML, Markdown, Notebook, ODT. So it's docs, but by I forgot the company. PDF, PowerPoint, and text files.
And how do you decide on this set of files versus other sets?
For now, it's just the ones that made more sense to us. And if somebody asks to add a file, it's pretty straightforward. So it's just we have a function here that returns a function with a type of loaders, and so it's very straightforward. And if you want to add a new loader, you can just do it. And how it works is we have let me so I think I changed so here we have if the extension of the file is one of those, then we call the corresponding processor, and that's it. So yeah, it's very simple, and people can just add whatever they want here, and then it's integrated. So this is what happens when you just upload the file. So if you go here, so what happens is you take a file and you upload it. It's going to, so this file already exists, but it's going into the processor here. It's looking at Markdown. So we have MD or Markdown because some people use the Markdown extension, and then we go and process the file. And so this here is we are using the LangChain document loaders, and it loads the file into memory. It adds metadata on top of it, and then do you have any more questions about that? I think it's
seems what type of metadata is that, or is that just whatever gets added on the document loaders, or do you add extra things?
Yeah, we add extra things for now. So let me go back to the common. So what we do is we add the file char. So it's a unique identifier of the file, so that we know if the file has already been uploaded, the size, the name, the chunk size, chunk overlap, date, and a feature. We have added a feature that is if this is a summary of a chunk or not. And yeah, so these are some metadata that we add. The file size one that we use to be able to know that, if I try to upload a file again and again, you won't be able to, because it already exists in the vector store. So sorry, I was showing the wrong string, but if I try to add map.md again, I can't, because the file already exists thanks to the SHA.
Got it.
So yeah, and the file size and things. Yeah.
What about, so the summarization seems interesting. What's that?
So the summarization is something we started working on with Sean. So he's one of the guys that has been here since the beginning. Is the ability to summarize the document before putting it in the brain, and have two. So if we look at the let me find the Supabase. So I'm showing you here the vector store on Supabase. It's a bit pretty much red. So we are not using it in production yet. It's still in testing. But what happened is you summarize the content of the file using ChatGPT or GPT-4, Claude, or Bard, or something like that, and you embed this summary. And you also here we have a foreign key that links to the full document. And so that allows you to ask a question on, so retrieving more information. And I think you did something like that with the condensed prompt. I saw a new feature coming fairly a couple of days ago. I know you're going very fast, but I think you created something called the condensed. Yeah, so I think yeah, you did that with the condensed. I'm not sure. I saw something and I didn't have the I don't know why I saw it, but so I think
we have a summarization. Are you using the summary?
No, because this is a feature that we implemented 2.5 weeks ago, maybe, but we haven't, used any of the tools inside. So it's a feature for later on, but we definitely need to put it. So the backend is ready to use it, but the front end is not.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is that we haven't yet tested how much it costs, because for each document you're kind of doubling the price, because you have to process the document, create a summarization, embed this summarization, and also embed the documents that follow. So that's kind of crazy. But so we went right here to the embeddings. But the first thing is to
let's talk about
chunking. Yeah, the chunking of documents. So what we did here is we are using the recursive character text splitter. So what happens is when you load your document, then we split it into chunk size of 500 tokens. So we are using TikToken encoder. It's something that kind of calculates the same number of tokens than GPT. Why I'm using this one is because most people use GPT for now. And I think Claude also is using the same one, kind of, function to calculate the number of tokens.
How'd you decide on 500 and 0 as the chunk size and chunk overlap? This is one question I get asked a lot. Like, what's the best chunk size? What's the best?
It's like the same thing. I don't know. It's one question I've been asked. It's one thing that we need to look at, and it's it depends on how much context you want to keep. For some documents, 100 tokens is fine. For others, 1,000 is fine. So it's not something that we have looked into yet, but it's something that needs to be looked into because the chunk size. So if we look here, it splits the document into smaller bits. But if we have a document that talks about, the title is King Arthur, I don't know. And then we have the description, and at any time we don't talk about King Arthur, we just say it's a king that did that. If we have a chunk size that is too small, we could lose the title at the beginning. And so when we do the similarity search, what happens is that we might not be able to find the chunk that has the information that we want on King Arthur. So on some use cases, having small chunks is very interesting. And on some use cases, you want big chunks. So it's something that I don't know how yet, but it's something that we need to put into Quivr to allow people or to tell people, well, if it's a document that has, small categories, put a chunk that is very small. But if it's a document that has, not a lot of categories and you want to be able to ask questions about big parts of the documents, then put a chunk size that is big. But this is one of the tricky things that we encounter with Quivr is the chunk size. And I think it's something that the community needs to think about because it's going to make information retrieval way better once we figure out how to chunk efficiently. And I think it's something that is often overlooked in applications. And it's something that we are overlooking in Quivr right now because we have no clue what to do.
I mean, one of the things, and I see some comments in the chat about chunking by existing document formatting and how that's effective. One of the things that we have that we can maybe make a little bit, like basically we have a bunch of document splitters that split by like important attributes. This doesn't get to the length chunks, but like markdown, right? Like you keep the, and I think you had some great feedback when we chatted earlier about like right now we split on like header 1, header 2 and stuff like that. And so that helps a little bit with like organization and keeping things semantically meaningful. The big thing would be, it would be really nice to carry that metadata through. And so I think we're working on some stuff there. But, another thing, since you already have the file extensions, one thing that we can probably add pretty easily is just like a splitter that like, looks for if it's markdown, it will use the markdown one. If it like it kind of like does it based on the file extensions.
I think the recursive text splitter already does that. But it splits at the correct place, but it doesn't keep the information that we want.
Yeah, but even with the recursive text splitter right now, it takes on like a single list of things to split on. But those things like that, the list of those things for Markdown versus like HTML is like pretty different. And so having a nice way to switch this I guess relies on like each document kind of having actually, do you do text splitting like at the individual document level?
Yeah.
So then it should be pretty easy to, we can maybe work on something, but it should be pretty easy to add something that just like looks at the file extension. And then if it's like HTML, it uses the HTML recursive text splitter. If it's Markdown, it uses the Markdown one.
I think so long text splitting is very important because we are limited by context right now. So if we have 1 million context or tokens, then the chunking is not an issue. But when you have 4,000, 8,000, or 32,000, being able to efficiently chunk your files is very important because it allows you to put more information at the same place. So if GPT OpenAI releases GPT-4 with 2 million token possibilities, then chunking, we can just put it in the garbage and just load the entire file. But for now, if we want efficient information retrieval, we need to have efficient chunking.
So yeah, so there was a question about this in the chat, and we'll get to embeddings of vector stores in a little bit. But like, I think with these long context windows, do you think, will chunking and embedding and vector stores go away? Because the argument would be exactly what you said. You can just pass the whole document in. The counter argument would be like, that takes a lot longer to get an answer.
Yeah,
it's probably a better answer. Yeah.
Yeah, it might. But the thing is, let's say that you want to ask the LLM, what happened today in the world?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think that 2 million tokens will be enough. So you'll have to process all the information before. So it's just that we'll be able to process more information and have more accurate information based on huge context and ask more complicated questions. But I think that chunking and vector store will be here for quite a bit of time, and you probably don't want to do the calculation all the time. You still have to, what happened on old Mondays since 1922. That's something you need a vector store. I don't know if it's useful, but you need a vector store in order to store the information, or at least a database.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, we can continue. So yeah, the last part is kind of the embedding. So we are using OpenAI embeddings. I've tried Palm. So Palm is the Google model, and you can use it to embed, and you can use it with LangChain. So there is let me find. You can use the embeddings in LangChain for Palm. But the issue that I had is that for now, Palm only is not compatible in terms of vector size with OpenAI. So it means that if I want to use Palm, I have to make a second database with a vector that is 750 dimensions, where OpenAI embeddings is 1500. So I can't use the same database, a table, for the same one. So I can't allow people to use either Vertex AI with Palm or OpenAI, depending on what they prefer, because that means that right now I have to change the way that the information is stored. But yeah, you can use pretty much any embeddings system that you want, just less precise to have Palm for now. And the vector store, I've used Supabase because you get a free database, which is pretty nice, and it's PostgreSQL. So one of the things is that I really like vector store, but I'm not a data scientist like you. And so I know PostgreSQL. I can use the same table, the same database to store. So if we look here, I've got my user, I've got my stats, I've got my vectors, my summaries, all of these things at the same place. And I don't need to try something else. And PostgreSQL is very efficient for, you can go to terabytes of data. And if we look at the health of the database, so this is the CPU that has been used on the database. So for now, it's cruising. I mean, it doesn't have any issue with the usage on the database. So yeah, so I'd recommend for now, for people when you're trying to build something, to use you can use Pinecone or any other managed vector store that you want. But if you just want to poke something very simple, a PostgreSQL database, if you know how to do, is very, very convenient.
So yeah, the number one upvoted question right now, and this is a reminder: if people have questions, add them in the Q&A section. I'll put ones you want to see answered. But the number one question that's there is like, which vector store are you using and why? And so just to summarize, like Postgres, because you already know it and are using it for other things, and it's easy to use with Supabase out of the box.
Yeah, it's and I did not have to. So I looked into Weaviate, Quadrant, Pinecone, Milvus. I always get and
Milvus,
each time I had to learn a new way of communicating, and they are great and they are awesome. But I'm not storing right now terabytes of information. So a PostgreSQL is fine, and I know that if Quivr keeps growing, I'll have to use one of them. But for now, no, I don't. So yeah. I think there's a question with multiple documents. For now, I think the default document retrieval is 4. So this is something that we have to improve, and to we haven't implemented yet a dynamic document loading, but it's something that we have to do.
You're talking about chunks, right?
Yeah.
So that'd be, I mean, that's something that and I'm assuming you'd want to do that based on like token length of the document, right?
Yes,
like load.
Exactly. So I think it's in the conversational retrieval. So let me see. I think the Supabase vector store, for example, retrieves by default. So there's the K argument here. And I think by default it's at 4. So I had to override the similarity search function. But by default, I think it's 4. So 4 documents.
Well, 4 chunks of documents. So I think this, and I'm not sure what this question is asking about, but if it's asking about like multiple documents at once, when you were doing the chat, you were already chatting over all your documents, right? And we're able to do that with the whole, so the chunking and putting it into a vector store allows us to basically interact with all these documents at once.
Exactly.
So.
But yeah, it's something that you have to keep in mind is that for now, Quivr is using 500 chunks of 500 tokens, and GPT 3.5 is limited to 4,000 tokens. So if I use 4 chunks, that's 2,000 tokens that are being used. And when it says 4,000 tokens, it's 4,000 tokens for the question, the context plus the question plus the answer. So and then if you want to have a chat history, chat memory, that's if you go above 4,000 tokens, you don't have you can't find the history. It's, for example, when you use ChatGPT plus ChatGPT on the website, once you go over, if you have a long discussion, with ChatGPT at one time, it feels like it doesn't remember what you were talking before. It's because you went over the token limit, and so it had to forget a few things. So yeah, it's an issue that we have, but
Awesome.
And so after that we have the retrieval. So we have the user question, and we create a vector with that. We use the similarity search function, and then we ask the question to ChatGPT with the chunks as context and the user question. One thing that we had to do is we had to, as you saw here, is we had to create a custom Supabase vector store. The reason why is that, that's a good question, is that here you can see I have a user ID. The thing is, right now, the Supabase vector store on Python doesn't support metadata filtering. So I was lazy. I didn't make a pull request. I just
gotta open up PRs.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm joking.
But
I'm
yeah,
joking.
so I implemented my own similarity search that allows me to filter by a specific column. So if we look at the database here, in the vectors, here I have the name of the user. And so that's, that allowed me to filter on that. I wanted to do it on metadata, but it wasn't supported yet. I told the guys at Supabase, and they are looking into it, because I said,
Nice.
well, your JS vector store supports filtering on metadata, but the ones on Python doesn't. And I understand they are a JS, JavaScript, more focused on website than on backend with Python. So it's understandable.
Yeah.
So that's basically everything that happens with Quivr. We have a few things that we had to change, and a few things that we have issues with. Is, for example, and I'm sorry I didn't make a PR, is the default prompt doesn't respond in the initial language of the question. So if you had people that ask questions in Chinese, it answers in English if the document is in English. No, it answers in English. No, if you ask a question in your language, at first it answered with, English. So that's something that we had to change. And so that for now it's fairly simple. You can try it. You can install it locally. If you want to look at the first iteration that happened 3 weeks ago.
Can I ask a quick question going back to prompt changing the prompts? This is something that we want to make really easy at LangChain, because the prompts that we have are just default prompts. We don't think they're the best ones. You absolutely should modify them for your use case. Was there anything we could do to make, like, how easy was that process? Is there anything we can do to make that easier for people to figure out how to modify the prompts? The fact that you can modify prompts at all.
It was fairly easy. I mean, it's good. I think the information retrieval of how what the default prompt is not efficient. So at first I had some issues understanding how the prompts were, created with, the prompt template and the questions. And if we look at that, so we have the chat history here, we have the question. And so this is something that I think we copied from your code, and we modified. And it took me quite a bit to understand that you were using templating to, include the chat history here, the follow-up question, and but it's very easy to modify. I mean, it's right here. You can create your own. You already created more with the condensed prompt. I don't think it's an issue.
Cool.
I'm looking at the questions.
So there's questions. There's a good one that I like from Maxime, and there's kind of two components to it. So maybe we can stick with I think there's a technical part. So how do you debug / improve all the knobs of the LLM app? The choice of embeddings, the choice of vector stores, the text splitters, the prompts. Like how do you debug and improve all these?
So I think I know this guy. I think we had a talk on Tuesday. So it's questions that I've asked, and I had a discussion with him. But the issue right now is that you can't know if how do you end to end, or how do you test that your new version of your prompt is better than the last one? And that's something that is very hard to do. And I think there is a place to, you know, there is something to be done. I mean, I don't know when I'm making an improvement of my prompt, on my embeddings, on the chunk size, if the questions that is answered is better than the previous version. And so I've thought about using ChatGPT to measure, you know, the relevance of the answer, but it's pricey. I mean, every time you want to to test if your new version is better than the last one, if you do, you know, unit test, it's going to cost you a bunch of calls to OpenAI. And yeah, so right now it's just, you know, try on an error. But if we want projects to go above and beyond, you know, with performance and improvements, we have to find a way to measure the improvements of prompts. And so that could come from measuring user, you know, A/B testing, or I don't know. It's very hard. I think there's a field.
Well, so there's so the second part of this gets into a little bit of that, and then maybe this is more on the product side. How do you like visualize and understand how users are using Quivr? And maybe we can take this less in the technical direction, but like more like, you know, when you're thinking about products to add, right, or features to add, like what do you use to keep an eye on how people are using the app?
Well, we have so not in the new version, but on the Streamlit version, every question that was asked on Quivr was recorded. So it gave, I can show you. So I had a table here, and let me find. So it was, how did I chat here? So it was quick and dirty, but you know, here I can find all the I could find all the questions that people asked about Quivr on Quivr. So let's look at something. So that's something that I did, is I looked at how people were using it, and then I tried to find the issues. So one thing that I found is that people are trying to ask questions on one document specifically, and Quivr doesn't do that efficiently. So let me share you that. If you want to ask questions about, you know, let's say the Tech Radar Cloud Paddock, is summarize the Tech Radar Cloud Paddock. It can't. It can't do it because it doesn't have, you know, the capability to take just all the contents of the file. Okay, so yeah, so that's the demo effect. You know, it's working right now, but but
probably it doesn't have like all, like it's you know, it's pulling in some chunks and it's probably summarizing the chunks that it gets back, but it's not the full thing.
Yeah.
So one thing here that I'm interested, kind of like, you know, and we can chat about this offline, and like right now you're using kind of like the fixed conversational retrieval chain, which is, you know, super easy to get started, but is really about like question answering on like a fact basis. I think one thing that would be interesting to explore is like, you know, the idea, I don't know whether it's an agent or just using a router chain. So if you can say like, oh, if the question seems to be about summary, I'm going to do summary, and then you basically like, okay, find the page or pages to look. This is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated, but like you can route between and like only use the conversation chain when it's a factual question, and when you go to summarization. For summarization, I mean, and this can also, I was thinking about this the other day. This can be like, you know, like if someone asked you to summarize a document, you could just switch over to using, if you have access, the Anthropic 100K model, and just pass in the whole document, assuming that it's like short enough. And like, you know,
there is not on the web app, but on the local app, you can use Anthropic, so Claude, 100,000 context and all of this, but I don't have access to it. So if one guy here, you know, I'm looking for access. But yeah, that's something that you could do. But 100,000. I've calculated the price. It's 73 cents for one summarization of 100,000 tokens context. It's kind of pricey, So I think the chain, the agents, the summarization that you showed right here, maybe using specific chains or agents to do something when the question, when you think that the question is going somewhere, that would be nice. But there's an issue with that, and I think it's the GPT-3 and Bard that relies on the underlying local LLM to be performant enough to be able to tell you with a structured so JSON or things like that. So with Auto GPT and things like that, they talk with they tell you what to do. The next action with a JSON, and you have fuzzy JSON parser and things like that. If you're using a bad or not performant enough LLM, it can take hours just to do one simple task. And so if you're trying to retrieve information quickly using agents or long chains, can the user experience won't be great. So we need to find a way to make it smart. Maybe on the UX on the website, you have a button and you say this is a summarization task. Please summarize the document.
Honestly, that's probably easier. Yeah, like you can. There's this thing, right, where like you could do something really complicated, or you could just make the UX a little bit different and add a button, and boom, that's
It reminds me of the blockchain in 2017, because I used to be a blockchain dev. We tried to put blockchain everywhere, but sometimes you don't need blockchain. A simple button can do the same thing. I think LLMs is amazing and can do plenty of things, but sometimes just a simple checkbox can go a long way.
Going to another question, do you plan to add website crawl and scrape features so we could ask Quivr about, for example, online docs?
Yeah, so this one has been a tough one. So if you want, there's an issue that has been started a week ago by one guy, taken back by another one, and it's working. The only thing is here, the installation of Chrome is not platform agnostic. So that means that we have to have a Docker file that is different for each platform, and that I don't want. I just want to have to do and type one command. So the code is working. You can crawl in-depth website, max page, max time, if you want JS rendering or not. But just this part is blocking. So I haven't found the time yet to debug. But yeah, I could merge the file, but that would mean that the Docker file would only work on Intel computers and not on my MacBook, for example. I'd have to do something else different. This is not something I want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Another question I see is about local models.
Yes.
So do you plan to support local open source LLM? Which and when?
So this is something that we are. So with I'm planning on talking with Ivan from Private GPT on Monday. So we have been talking with Ivan, and there's one thing that I need from him is the ability to use his package, and import it into Quivr. So I'm waiting on him to implement this functionality, but I'm planning on using Private GPT. And later on, if you want, you could use other ones, but the first one is Private GPT. And it's going to happen. I have let me find it. I have Quivr. I have a roadmap. Let me find it. So this is the Quivr roadmap. So we are here. So we are done, almost done with the day one. Then we have, the streaming source documents, one multiple documents conversation, and shareable brains. And then it's going to be local LLMs. And so
Nice.
this one will be, so this is like, we are talking 2 weeks, in 2 weeks time, we will be able to use private LLMs. It just is going so fast.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah.
And the summarization metadata enrichment is what we chatted about earlier.
Exactly. So it's something that needs to happen, because right now Quivr is just a beautiful document retriever, but it's not very efficient. So we need to be able to use it efficiently, add more information, allow people to create their own prompts, because the prompt that you want, if you are, if your brain is here to help you answer questions on issues with technical things, the prompt might be different than if you ask questions about a book. If you ask questions about the book, you want the prompt to not deviate from the context. If you ask questions about technical issues, you might want the prompt to tell the local language model to try to answer the question with the context, but if it doesn't exist, it can create an answer, from its knowledge.
Is that what specialized brains mean, or what is specialized brains? I see a question in the chat about specialized brains as well. So
it's something I want to be able to allow people to fine tune some models and make them very efficient at understanding specific types of files or context. So let's say CSVs or PDF that talk about one specific thing. I want them to be very efficient at one task.
Yeah.
And so it's not very, for now, it's just something I haven't thought a lot about it. But we need to, it's like a part of your brain that is very good at one thing and one thing only.
Yeah.
And
we'll
see how it happens. And there's open source brains. I want people to be able to create, and the same thing you're doing with LangChain Hub is to be able to download and publish brains, specialized brains. And then the last one is the visual document editor. So it's the ability to edit your brain from the web app.
Yeah. All right, I think we're just about running short on time. So any last words of wisdom that you would like to leave us with? Things you're looking forward to, things on the roadmap, things you want help with? Yeah. What last words of wisdom?
Just have fun and try to build something. I mean, it's amazing what you can build, and frameworks like yours, like LangChain, really help create amazing applications. And guys, just try and do one thing, and you might do a webinar about it in a couple of weeks, and just have fun on the way. And a lot of people are looking and are doing things. So just try and build something. And it took me less than 200 lines of code to build the first iteration of Quivr. And so have fun.
Just have fun and build. I love that. That's definitely going to be when I tweet about the YouTube link. That is definitely going to be the thing there. Thanks for joining me, Stan. This was a lot of fun. I think this was a great deep dive. We talked about product. We talked about tech stuff. I hope people enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. And